what's up guys, it's me Drew for AJ Bros Protection. So before I start the video, I just want to say something. I know for the last episode that it sounded really opinionated and that I didn't really care a lot. That's because I thought it was, and I was talking to my friend and he thought that it was, and so he didn't think I gave the real facts about what was actually happening in that video, and that I was just talking about what I wanted to talk about and not the actual things that were going on. And so I want to apologize for that episode, and I want to explain why that happened. It's because I was just kind of done with that episode. I was kind of bored of writing the script. It was really boring, and I was just tired of it. I wanted to get it over with, and so I just wasn't caring about the quality of the video, and so yeah, I want to apologize for that. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the topic of this video, the importance of a free and, keyword, reliable press, and how YouTube and channels like this can help spread news. And just as a disclaimer, during this episode I will talk about Donald Trump and the similarities between him and authoritarian leaders and similar things that they've said and done. And so you know, I'm not another Democrat just thinking that he's a crazy guy who's gonna destroy the world, even though I do kind of think that, but that's not what I'm trying to get across and make you believe. But you've been warned. So first, I'm gonna hit the most obvious point. Our founding fathers intended for us to have a free press. They thought that it was the cornerstone of democracy. To quote Thomas Jefferson, "Were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or a newspaper without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter, but I should mean every man receive those papers and be capable of reading." What Jefferson is saying is that it's better to have no government with informed people than a government with people that are uninformed. But what he's also saying is that the people need to be able to understand and be able to read those papers so that they can know what's actually going on. Also, in the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, not the Second Amendment, is the freedom of press. And yet everybody makes a big deal about the friggin' Second Amendment and that we have to have guns and such. But you know what? The founding fathers cared more about freedom of press and speech more than they cared about guns. So I'm sorry. But another important role that the press has is to keep government and businesses in check. And that's why the press has been referred to as the unofficial fourth branch of government. A few examples of investigative reporting exposing scandals of governments and businesses is Watergate, the Nixon scandal where he tapped the Democratic building. A scandal of the Standard Oil Company that caused its breakup and tarnished the reputation of John D. Rockefeller. Joseph McCarthy getting exposed as a misguided anti-communist, and truthful reporting of the Vietnam War that didn't show the war in a good light, just to name a few of the instances. Because of this, it's very, very disturbing when the President of the United States technically tweets out that New York Times, NBC, ABC, CBS, and CNN, all very important news sources, are not the enemy of just him, but the enemy of the American people. Because of him saying this, he's just discrediting sources that people use often and people rely on very heavily. So by discrediting those sources, he's saying you can't trust them. Anything they say is not real. So then if they expose him for some sort of scandal, then he can just brush it off as fake news. It's not real. Now, if you're a person that supports Trump and believes all the stuff he says, let's look at why that's not such a great idea, and without fact checking it or checking it with other sources. An example of a person who believes this is a Texas representative named Lamar Smith. So what Lamar said was that we should get our unvarnished news from the president himself. Just from who our president is, we should look and realize that is a terrible idea. PolitiFact checked him and said 70% of all of Trump's claims were either mostly false, or pants on fire. Just so you know, PolitiFact is a Pulitzer Prize winning company. Now, besides the fact that our president is Donald Trump, believing everything your president says is a terrible idea. Most authoritarian leaders like Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, whoever runs China, they all have their own they all have government-run news organizations, and that is the only place you can get your news, is from the government. And as we all know, all those places are dictatorships, and dictatorships love to run everything, especially the news, because the news can discredit them and show that they're terrible people. But because the government controls the news, the people don't know anything. That is why it's a terrible idea to get your news from Donald Trump. So if you're a person that believes that Democrats, like myself, are just a bunch of commie bastards that are here to infiltrate America and turn it into a communist country, then taking your news from Donald Trump will be the surest way to make your nightmare become a reality. Now, I have a statistic from the Washington Post. It says only about 49% of Republicans or Republican-leaning believe that the media should and can criticize the leader of our country. This is also another way that authoritarian leaders come to power and stay in power. They make their citizens believe that they are the greatest person in the whole world and that they cannot screw up and they are perfect. So great examples of this are like Vladimir Putin. Have you ever seen a picture of him that is not either impressive or doesn't show him in a good light? I mean, everything he takes a picture of and is put out in the media is like, oh, look at how great this guy is. And you know what? The people of Russia actually do believe that Putin is a demigod. So if the press isn't allowed to either diminish the quality of a leader or expose him for things that he does, then we don't know whatever happens with our leader and if he's a terrible person or not. So you need the free press to be able to expose things like that, or else you could just have another authoritarian government in America. So here's my final thing. I believe that YouTube can make an impact on spreading reliable news, especially channels like this that are willing to do their research. First of all, about 1 billion people use it worldwide. That's about 1/7 of the population of the entire world uses YouTube. And then 20% of those 1 billion people come from the US. And so, yeah. Shoot. Third point, about every viewing session that people have lasts about 40 minutes. My videos are 10 minutes long. Finally, lots of young people use YouTube and watch YouTube regularly. So we would be reaching a different audience that perhaps New York Times or CNN or Washington Post wouldn't reach, and they'd still be getting the same sorts of facts because I use Washington Post, you New York Times. I don't use CNN, but I use like PBS and such. And so, yeah. So if people like me can reach these younger people, then we might be able to get a whole new group of people into voting and knowing the actual facts. So, yeah, overall, that's all I have to say. That's all I wrote. So, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. See you next time.